On a faraway planet where the trees glowed at night and the rivers hummed with life, a secret human base hid deep within the forest. This base was not known to the local alien tribes, not even to their wisest leaders. Inside the base, human scientists were testing a powerful blue serum. The serum was created for human soldiers, to make them stronger, faster, and harder to kill in battle. They called it Project Edge, and it was still not ready. Even one drop could change a person forever. The bottle was stored in a sealed case, locked and guarded every hour of the day. But one careless soldier left it on a table after a routine check. That same day, a young alien girl named Lena wandered near the human base. She was curious and full of energy, always exploring. Her green skin shimmered under the trees, and her large silver eyes caught everything. Lena had never seen a human before, only heard stories. She followed the sound of strange voices and blinking lights until she saw the bottle. It was glowing, beautiful, calling to her like magic. Without knowing what it was, Lena grabbed the bottle and ran. Her heart raced with excitement, thinking she had discovered treasure behind her. Alarms began to flash in the base. Humans noticed the missing serum within minutes. They scrambled into teams and began tracking its signal. They had no idea who had taken it, only that it had to be found before it was too late. Meanwhile, Lena hid in the forest under a thick tree branch. She looked at the strange writing on the bottle, not understanding a word. Her fingers twisted the cap, and the smell that rose was sharp and cold. Something inside her told her not to drink it. But curiosity won. She took one small sip, and everything changed. A burning fire spread through her chest. Her heart beat faster, and her skin heated up. She dropped the bottle and gasped. Holding her head, her body trembled, and her breathing grew heavy. Colors became brighter, sounds sharper, and her limbs felt too strong. She stood quickly, startled by how fast her legs moved. Something had awakened inside her, something she didn't understand. She tried to walk, but her body jerked with sudden energy. Her thoughts were no longer clear. Strange feelings rushed through her: anger, fear, something hotter and strange. She didn't feel like herself anymore. She ran, moving faster than ever before. Trees flew past her as if she had wings. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to move behind her. The humans tracked her signal and followed in silence. In her village, her absence was noticed. Her mother searched the nearby trails, calling her name, but Lena could not stop. The serum was changing her more with each moment. The warmth inside her was not going away, it was growing. The leader of the human base watched the tracker screen closely. "This is bad," he said. "If the alien girl transforms too far, we may not be able to reverse it." But others whispered about how useful she could be, a living test subject. Stronger than expected, in the forest, Lena collapsed near a small creek. She cupped water in her hands, but it spilled from shaking fingers. She looked at her reflection and gasped. Her eyes were glowing faint blue. Her veins lit up like soft lights under her skin. Suddenly, a voice called to her from the trees. "Don't move," it said gently. She turned and saw a tall human in dark clothing, holding up empty hands. He was not shouting, not pointing a weapon. "I saw what happened," he said. "I'm here to help you." Lena backed away, unsure. Her instincts screamed to run, but something about the man's voice calmed her. He took slow steps toward her and sat down on a rock. "You don't have to be scared," he said. "You drank something very powerful, and I think it's hurting you." Lena didn't speak, but her eyes didn't leave his face. She didn't trust him, but she didn't feel danger either. "My name is John," he said, placing a small pack of food on the ground. "If you're hungry, take it. I won't stop you." Then he stood and slowly walked away, but he didn't go far. He stayed close enough to protect her if needed. Lena looked down at the food, then at her glowing hands. Everything had changed in one moment, and now, she was no longer just a girl from the forest. She had become something new, something no one had ever seen. And the world was about to learn what she could do. The forest looked calm from above, But Lena's body was anything but. She lay curled near the riverbank, her chest rising and falling like a storm. Her skin glowed faintly under the moonlight, and her muscles ached with strange heat. It felt like something alive was crawling through her veins, not pain, but pressure, like her whole body wanted to leap, fight, scream, and something else she couldn't name. The sip from that glowing bottle was changing her, not just her strength or speed, but her emotions, waves of desire, confusion, and anger twisted inside her like wild animals. She tried to breathe slowly, but her lungs pulled air like they were starving. Even the wind brushing her skin made her shiver in ways she didn't understand. What is happening to me? She whispered. She reached for the cold water, cupping it in her glowing hands, but her fingers trembled and she spilled half of it. Her reflection stared back, eyes no longer silver, but a soft burning blue. Suddenly, twigs snapped behind her. Lena jumped to her feet in one sharp movement. Her body responded before her mind did. She crouched low, baring her teeth like an animal. It was John, the same human who had offered her food. He raised his hands again, slow and calm. "It's just me," he said. "You're not in danger." But Lena's breathing stayed sharp, her heart racing too fast. Her mind was yelling one thing, run, but her body was feeling something else, drawn to the sound of John's voice. The calmness in his eyes. She blinked, trying to chase the heat from her face. John took a slow step forward. "You're changing," he said. "I think this serum is waking parts of you no one expected." She said nothing, but her arms dropped slightly. She didn't feel like she wanted to hurt him, even though her instincts were wild. "Can you walk?" John asked, still calm. "We need to move. The soldiers are getting closer, and they're not like me." Lena nodded, barely able to focus. Her legs obeyed, but they moved with a strange tightness. As they walked, her footsteps were silent. Every sound around her was sharp leaves falling, insects crawling, birds flapping. Her senses were overloaded, but her eyes kept drifting toward John. His presence made her feel steady. Even as the fire inside her kept burning, they found a shallow cave hidden by vines. John led her inside and offered a small blanket. Lena sat, still silent, wrapping herself and curling into a corner, her back against the wall, her eyes fixed on the flames of a small fire John lit. "How do you feel now?" John asked gently. She looked up at him, confused and trembling. "Hot," she whispered. "I feel like I'm burning." John nodded. "It's the serum. It wasn't meant for someone like you." Silence fell between them for a while. John removed his jacket and handed her a small pouch of water. She drank carefully, her fingers still glowing, her eyes not leaving him. Her body was strong now, powerful, but out of balance. "What if I lose control?" she asked suddenly, her voice sharp but scared. "What if I hurt someone?" John didn't look afraid. "Then I'll help you regain it," he said. "You're not alone anymore." Lena lowered her gaze. Something in his voice soothed the chaos inside her, a warmth that was different from the one boiling under her skin. It was kindness, quiet and deep. As the night grew darker, Lena drifted into sleep. But even in her dreams, her body moved restlessly. Her heart still raced, and her hands clenched at invisible threats. She dreamed of running, of falling, of John reaching out to catch her. Outside the cave, unseen eyes watched from the trees. A black drone hovered quietly, blinking once before vanishing into the trees. The secret group had found her again, and this time, they would not send warnings. John stood at the edge of the cave entrance, his hand on his weapon. He knew they had little time left, but for now, she was safe, and he would keep it that way. No matter what. Inside, Lena opened her eyes slightly and watched him in silence. The fire inside her still burned, but maybe, just maybe, it didn't have to burn alone anymore. The cave was quiet, but Lena's mind was not. She sat with her knees pulled to her chest, watching John sleep near the fire. Every sound outside echoed inside her ears, sharper than before. The serum had not just changed her body, it had opened something deeper, something raw. Her skin still tingled where the heat ran through her veins. She tried to breathe slowly, but even the way her chest rose and fell made her feel strange. Not sick but restless, her emotions were a mix of hunger, fear, and something warm that made her heart flutter when she looked at John. She didn't understand it fully, but she knew it wasn't the same as anger or panic. It was new, wild, confusing, and made worse by the energy inside her. The serum didn't let her relax. It stirred her constantly. When John stirred awake, his eyes met hers. He gave a small smile, gentle and without pressure. "Morning," he said softly. Stretching his arms, she looked away, her cheeks warm again. "I didn't sleep," she whispered. "My body, it feels too alive." John nodded slowly. "Your blood's still reacting, but maybe if you move a little, train your muscles, it might help." He stepped outside and motioned her to follow. The sun was rising, and light poured through the trees. She joined him in the clearing, still cautious but curious. "What kind of training?" she asked. "Nothing too hard," John said, picking up a smooth branch. "Just movement, control, focus, simple things to help you calm your body." She copied his motions, learning to balance and breathe. Step by step, she followed though. Her body still trembled with built-up tension. Her eyes flicked toward John's every movement, his calm voice, the way his muscles moved. The warmth in his eyes, everything stood out more than it should have. The serum didn't just make her stronger, it made her more aware of danger, of emotion and of attraction. After an hour, they rested under a wide tree. John handed her some dried fruit and water. As she ate, he spoke gently. "You're doing better than you think." She blinked at him, surprised by how his voice eased her thoughts. "Why are you helping me?" she finally asked. John tilted his head, then shrugged. "I've seen what the others want to do with you. They don't see a person, they see a test subject." Lena looked down, her fingers tightening. "And what do you see?" John hesitated, then answered, "Someone scared, someone brave, someone trying to stay herself." Those words hit deeper than she expected. Her chest felt tight, but not in a painful way. Her eyes watered, and she looked away quickly. No one had said that to her before, not even on her own planet. Suddenly, the air around them shifted. John's head snapped up, his hand on his weapon. "They're close," he said. "I heard a drone, probably scouts." Lena's body moved before her mind caught up, energy racing through her legs. They sprinted into the forest, dodging roots and ducking under branches. Lena led, her senses sharp, hearing the distant hum of machines behind them. "They're tracking me," she said breathlessly. "They must have tagged me without me knowing." "Then we'll break the signal," John said. He guided her toward a ridge, where the signal would be weakest, but as they climbed, a figure appeared in their path, one of the black armored agents from the secret group. Without thinking, Lena attacked. Her body moved like fire, fast and unstoppable. She struck the agent in the chest, sending him crashing into a tree. John stared in awe, then quickly pulled her back. "They'll send more," he said. "We have to keep going." But Lena froze, looking at her glowing hands. "I barely touched him," she whispered, "and he flew like a leaf." "You're stronger now," John said, "but that strength must be guided." He gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'll help you learn, but we can't stop here." They ran again, the sound of pursuit growing behind them. They knew they couldn't fight a whole unit. Not yet. John had one goal: to reach the signal tower nearby. If he could break the tracking system, they'd have a chance to vanish. As they reached the edge of a cliff overlooking a wide canyon, Lena gasped at the view. Clouds floated low, and strange birds circled below them. It was beautiful, but there was no time to admire it. They climbed down slowly, carefully avoiding sharp rocks and loose stones. John's hand reached back to help her, and when she grabbed it, a spark passed between them, not from the serum, but something real. Neither spoke, but the silence said everything. When they finally reached the ground, they hid beneath thick vines. They had escaped again, but barely. John turned to Lena, breathing hard. "We need to keep moving, but for now we rest." Lena nodded, her chest still burning from the run. But it wasn't just the serum this time. It was something else, something rising inside her. When she looked at him, something the serum only helped her feel more clearly. She didn't fully understand it, but she knew one thing for sure. She didn't want to face what was coming without John by her side. The wind was sharp at the bottom of the canyon, thick vines tangled between the rocks, and strange insect sounds echoed all around. John and Lena moved slowly, carefully, avoiding places where their feet might slip. Above them, the sky darkened, hinting at a coming storm. They had escaped the patrols for now, but both knew it wouldn't last. The secret military group hunting Lena had far more tools than just drones and soldiers. They had plans, dark ones, and they had just begun to unfold. John knelt beside a strange stone, pulling out a small device. "This should block the tracker signal for now," he said. Lena watched him, her fingers gripping the rock tightly. She still felt the energy of the serum pulsing through her. But it was quieter now. "You trust too much," she finally said. John looked up at her with a calm expression. "Maybe," he replied, "but something in me says you're worth trusting." Her eyes dropped to the ground, her heart skipping a beat. She didn't know how to respond to that, so she said nothing and focused on the canyon path ahead. Each step forward was one away from danger, but also one deeper into it. They stopped to rest in a narrow cave hidden behind waterfall mist. Inside, John used small tech pieces to make a signal blocker. Lena stood by the entrance, watching the water fall in silence. Her mind was restless again, her body too alert. She closed her eyes, trying to feel normal, but the moment her senses went quiet, images rushed in. Flashes of John's face, his hands helping her, his voice calming her. She opened her eyes quickly, confused by the warmth in her chest. "Do you think they'll stop chasing me?" she asked suddenly. John didn't look up from his work. "Not until they get what they want," he said. "But we're not going to let that happen." His voice was steady, but his eyes told the truth. He was tired too. He handed her a ration bar and some clean water. "You need to keep your energy up," he said. She took it, her hand brushing against his, and for a second, neither moved. A pulse shot up her arm. Not from the serum, but from something real. They both looked away, pretending it didn't happen. But the silence after it was different, closer, heavier, electric. Outside the cave, something moved through the trees. The tracker device John said earlier blinked red once. He rushed to it, frowning. "They're coming," he whispered, before Lena could speak. A flash of light filled the entrance. A powerful wave slammed through the air, throwing them back. Smoke filled the cave, and armored soldiers burst in from the sides. It was an ambush, a trap neither of them had seen coming. Lena's eyes burned blue, her body reacting instantly with one kick. She knocked a soldier into the wall. John pulled his weapon and covered her. They fought side by side, their rhythm almost perfect. But more soldiers poured in, stronger and faster than before. One of them fired a net that wrapped around Lena's legs. She fell hard, growling, struggling to break free. The heat inside her boiled, and her strength surged beyond limits. With a scream, she tore the net apart and leapt forward. Her fist struck the ground, sending a shockwave through the cave. The soldiers stumbled, their weapons shorting out from the burst of energy. John grabbed Lena's arm and shouted, "We have to go now." They dashed out into the rain, running through the trees, their clothes soaked, their breathing heavy. Behind them, the forest lit with sparks and shouted orders. But they didn't stop, not even to look back. Finally, they collapsed behind a ridge covered in glowing moss, both panting, both bruised, but alive. John leaned against the rock, his hair dripping with rain. Lena sat beside him, shaking from more than the cold. "That wasn't a search team," John said. "That was an elite unit. They want you badly." Lena clenched her fists, her breath still burning in her lungs. "Because I'm a tool to them," she whispered. John turned to her, his eyes calm but firm. "You're not a tool," he said. "You're a person, and they fear what they don't control." The storm passed slowly above them, but something between them had already changed. It wasn't just survival now, it was something deeper, a quiet promise neither had to speak. They would face whatever came next, together, no matter how dangerous it became. The rain had stopped, but the forest still whispered with danger. Lena sat in silence, her back against a mossy ridge. Her body pulsed with leftover energy, but she was drained inside. The fight had shaken her, not just because of the soldiers, but because she almost lost control again. John crouched nearby, checking the device he had used to block the signal. It was broken now, useless after the ambush. He looked over at Lena, her eyes dimmer than before. "We need to move before night," he said softly. Lena didn't answer right away. Her heart felt heavy, her thoughts cloudy. She clenched her fists, the glow faint but steady in her veins. "How do you keep going?" she finally asked. John stood and walked over, sitting beside her. "Because I believe you're worth fighting for," he said. "Not because of what's inside you, but because of who you are." His words struck her like wind on fire. They stirred the heat inside her in a different way, not the wild, burning chaos of the serum, but something softer, something that made her chest ache and her throat tighten. They rested for an hour, eating dried fruit and drinking from the stream. Lena leaned against a tree, her body still tense. She watched John's face, how calm he stayed, even when danger surrounded them. He made her feel like maybe she wasn't broken. Then came the sound again, distant engines in the sky. John looked up and narrowed his eyes. "They've sent dropships," he sighed. "They're going to sweep this entire region." He stood quickly and opened a folded map. "There's an old bunker 6 clicks north," he said, pointing. "If we can reach it, we can hide, recharge, maybe even get a message out." Lena stood too, shaking the rain from her shoulders. "Let's go," she said without hesitation. They moved fast, keeping to the trees. Every step brought more pressure, more heat rising in Lena's chest. She tried to ignore it, but the serum never fully rested. It whispered inside her, a voice without words, pushing her to move faster, stronger, harder. When they stopped for a short break, John noticed something in her eyes. "You're burning again," he said gently. She looked away, embarrassed. "I can't stop it," she said. "Sometimes it just builds up. And John placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're doing fine," he said. "You're still in control." His touch made the fire inside shift, not flare. It wasn't the serum reacting. It was her, feeling seen. They reached the edge of a ridge and saw the entrance to the old bunker below. It was covered in vines and dirt, half buried, but it was still intact, still strong. "This is it," John said, and they hurried down the slope inside. The bunker smelled of dust and metal. They found working lights, a water filter, and even an old med kit. It was cold but safe, hidden beneath layers of rock. For the first time in days, Lena exhaled deeply. They sat on the floor across from each other. John handed her a warm drink from his kit. "We'll rest tonight, leave in the morning," he said. She nodded, sipping slowly, letting the warmth calm her nerves. Silence wrapped around them, but it wasn't heavy. It felt like a quiet understanding. Their eyes met, and neither looked away. The closeness between them had grown stronger than either expected. Lena placed her cup down and said, "I've never felt this way before, not just from the serum, but from being around you." John looked at her, then slowly reached for her hand. "I feel it too," he said. "And it's not because of the serum." His voice was steady, filled with something real, something more than survival. Their hands stayed together, no words needed. The fire inside her finally settled. Not gone but calm, steady for the first time. She felt like maybe she could live with this. But deep beneath the bunker, an old signal light blinked red. Someone somewhere knew. The bunker had been opened. The peace would not last long. But for tonight, they had each other. And for Lena, that was enough. The bunker was silent, buried deep under rock and forest. Metal walls surrounded them, cold and steady, but inside, something much warmer was building, something fragile and real between a human and an alien girl. who had never been touched with care. Lena sat on a dusty metal bench, her fingers wrapped around a warm drink. Her body no longer trembled, her breath no longer rushed. The serum still pulsed quietly in her blood, but it no longer screamed. Instead, it hummed like a quiet echo of fire across from her. John cleaned a small wound on his shoulder, a scratch from their earlier escape. His movements were slow, tired, but focused. He didn't complain, didn't flinch, just worked through it calmly. Lena watched him closely, not just his actions, but the way he moved, the way he treated her like something precious, not a weapon, not a mistake, just her. "I feel different," she whispered. John glanced up, his expression soft. "How?" he asked, leaning back against the wall. She hesitated, fingers tightening on the cup. "I'm not afraid anymore," she said. "Not of them, not of the serum, not even of myself." She looked into his eyes. "I think it's because of you." John didn't smile, but his eyes said everything. "It's not just me," he replied. "You've been strong from the start. I just reminded you." They sat in silence after that, but it wasn't empty. It was full of unspoken things that didn't need to be rushed, full of warmth, trust, and something that felt dangerously close to love. Hours passed, and outside, the storm rolled in. Thunder echoed through the walls. Lightning flashed through the vent slits. Lena lay on a bedroll John had unpacked, her eyes closed, her breathing slow. But sleep didn't come easy, not because of fear, but because of the question building in her heart. Was she still fully herself? Or had the serum made her into something else? Something no longer meant to be touched gently. John sat near the door, watching the monitors, his weapon close, but his thoughts far. He cared for her. That much he knew, but the world would not care back. The military group would not stop until they had her again. They saw her as a prototype, an accident they now wanted to mass produce. They would not accept that she had a soul, a heart, a voice of her own. A light on the monitor blinked red. Movement. Near the forest edge, John stood quietly and turned to Lena. "They found us," he said, voice low. Lena sat up quickly, her heart already racing, not in fear, but in readiness. "How many?" she asked. "2 transports," John replied, "and a command unit." She stood without hesitation, the fire in her veins rising like a tide. But this time, she didn't fight it. She welcomed it, shaped it, controlled it. "We fight," she said. John nodded. "We fight, but we don't let them take you alive." She turned, eyes glowing gently. "They won't." John handed her a small device. "Press this. If they breach the door, it triggers the collapse system. No one gets." And after that, she looked at it, then placed it on her belt without a word. They positioned themselves by the vents, watching shadows move closer. The enemy had come prepared, but they didn't expect her to be ready. When the first soldier stepped through the entry hole, Lena moved like lightning. She grabbed his arm, twisted, and sent him flying across the bunker wall. Another charge. John fired twice, clean and fast. The fight was brutal but short. Together, they moved like a storm, her power and his precision cut through the intruders. But then, the command unit entered, the leader himself. He wore black armor and a cruel smile. "You don't know what you are," he said to Lena. "You're our future, not his." He pointed at John, but Lena stood in front of him. "I'm not yours," she growled. The leader aimed a stun gun. But before he could fire, Lena surged forward. Her punch shattered his chest plate, sending him to the floor unconscious. John stared at her, stunned by her control. She turned to him, breathing hard but steady. "I didn't lose myself," she whispered. "Not even once." He smiled finally, the kind that reached his eyes. "I never thought you would," he said. The storm outside faded, and the silence that followed felt like peace. For now, the danger was over. And inside the bunker, 2 souls sat side by side, one changed by science, the other changed by heart, both stronger because of each other. The storm had passed, and the bunker was quiet again. Outside, the ground was scattered with broken metal and crushed leaves, but inside, Peace settled over Lena and John like a warm blanket. They sat beside the control panel, shoulders touching. Both breathing deeply, Lena's heart still beat fast. But not from fear or the serum. It was something else now, something grounded. Something human. She had fought soldiers, broken metal with her hands, and still kept control. For the first time, she felt like she wasn't just surviving the serum, she was mastering it. John looked at her, eyes filled with both pride and something deeper. You didn't just survive, he said quietly. You chose to be more than they ever expected. Lena turned to him, her glowing eyes soft. You helped me remember who I was, she whispered. Before the serum, before the panic. I was just a girl who wanted to explore, John chuckled softly. And now you're a legend with glowing fists. They both laughed for a moment, their hands brushing gently on the floor. The tension between them had faded into something warm and calm. They knew they couldn't stay in the bunker forever. The military group might fall back for now, but they would regroup. John opened a map and pointed to a region beyond the northern mountains. There's an old Alliance outpost, he said, forgotten by most, but still safe, still protected. Do you think they'll take us in? Lena asked. John nodded. If I vouch for you, and if they see what you can do without fear. She took a deep breath, nodding slowly. Then we leave at sunrise. That night, they stayed close, not out of fear, but out of something that didn't need words. Lena rested her head on John's shoulder, his arm wrapped around her like it had always belonged there, their hearts beating steady in sync, the fire inside her finally calm. Morning light spilled into the bunker's entry tunnel. Lena stepped out first, her boots touching soft moss. The forest had washed clean during the storm. Everything smelled new. She turned back to John and smiled gently. They packed what little they had and moved north. With each step, the air felt clearer. The serum still hummed in Lena's blood, but no longer ruled her. She felt it like a tool now, something to be used with care, not fear. After 2 days of travel, they reached the edge of the cliff. Below was the forgotten outpost, silent but standing. John activated a beacon, and moments later, lights blinked from the tower windows. They had been seen. Armed figures approached. From the gate, cautious but not hostile, John raised his hand and stepped forward. She's with me, he said loudly. She's not a weapon, she's the reason I'm still alive. The leader of the outpost studied Lena for a long moment, then nodded once, stepping aside. You've come far, alien, he said. Let's hope it was worth the journey. Lena gave a small nod, her voice steady. I didn't come to be saved, she said. I came to be free, inside the outpost. They were given a room. It had no glowing lights, no weapons, just soft beds and quiet. John sat on one side of the room. Leaning back, Lena sat across from him, watching the stars appear outside the window. Do you think this is it? She asked. Our ending? John shook his head, smiling gently. No, he said. I think it's just the beginning. She walked over and sat beside him. Her head rested on his shoulder again. Thank you for seeing me as more, she whispered. Not a serum, not a threat. Just me. You were always more, John replied. They just didn't look close enough, outside. The stars twinkled above the quiet land, inside. The girl once hunted for what she became had finally found peace. Not because she was cured, but because she was accepted. Fire and all, and in the stillness, a human and an alien girl began their new life, not as subjects or soldiers, but as something far rarer, two hearts that chose each other. Despite the storm, despite the fire, despite the world.